Hey guys, it is almost noon on Thursday. Just FYI, I will probably skip next week because next Thursday is Thanksgiving over here. Um, Also, I'm going to be teaching, I think Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I teach like 8 classes or something crazy. So I'm going to be a little overrun. So next week, we're going to cancel the Hoerner happy hour. If you ask questions, I'll just push them into the next week. So don't worry, ask them as you have them, and we'll deal with it later. Just a couple this week so far, a little bit more about the technical stuff. So who was it? I do this every time. Who was it that asked? Allison asked about structuring rides, going into the new year. She was wondering from like a week to week basis, how can she structure her rides? So I would say first and foremost, sorry, there's something on my screen here. Go back to, I don't know what your certification, who it was with, Allison, but I know if it's Mad Dog, there's a lot about this in there. I would imagine Schwinn, same thing, Kaiser, same thing. They're going to talk about periodization. So if you're not familiar with that term, it's basically just a macro look at your training plan from a week-to-week basis. So it might be on a 4-week basis, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever that is, kind of walks people through, base building, slowly increasing intensity, aerobic, anaerobic, racing, recovery, all that stuff in sort of a planned, organized manner. This will change depending on how often you teach every week, if you're getting consistent riders. So part of the struggle with doing this, and I love that you're doing it, and it's great for people who are training, especially winter training. But if you have a lot of riders that come maybe once every week, once every couple weeks, or they're totally sporadic, maybe they show up 3 times in 1 week and then you don't see them again for a couple weeks, this kind of thing can get really hard. So I would almost encourage you to create like a program for your gym or your studio. Maybe it's like a 10-week program that you're building, and it has the goal of endurance or strength or even general fitness, weight loss, things like that. And you can base it off of that and plan your 10 weeks out to be that way. And then you can get people to opt in and really commit to going on that journey with you. Because it is the biggest challenge you'll have is you'll be in week 3 of whatever it is you planned. Maybe you're aerobic base building or you're doing endurance training that week. But this is somebody's first time with you. They don't know what you're talking about. So it gets a little tough to manage when you don't have consistent riders. If you do, then that's great. I would again, like, take a step back and actually think about what you want this to look like, what the goal is. Look at it on a week-to-week basis. Do some periodization trainings online, or just read up on it a little bit. There will be a lot of examples. You could just Google it. I mean, you learn it as a trainer. It's a big part of what you do with clients. Same thing with cycling, but there is a lot to it. So if you were Mad Dog certified, like I said, go back and check that out. Whatever your certification is, I'm sure they talk about it. If they don't, you can hop online and find some example programs. But it's not anything super complicated. It's the general idea is you're starting small. You're teaching form, you're teaching the basics, you're teaching RPE, you're base building, you're slowly increasing the aerobic base. So over a couple weeks, you're getting them to a point where they're endurance training a little bit. They can sustain themselves on the bike for a decent amount of time. Then you're getting to a little bit higher intensity and you're building up to that, hitting that lactate threshold. And then you're going to take them right back down to recovery after that so that they can kind of rebuild. So it makes sense the way that you're going to want to do it, but it will be different depending on what the goal is. So like I said, strength, general fitness, whatever it is, you got to take that into account as well. So there's a lot to that, and we can talk about that more if you have specific questions, but try and understand the basics of periodization and where the benefits are. See if you can build, like I said, some sort of program for your gym where you're going to get people to commit to this so they're with you for that whole journey. And then, see where it takes you. It's a really cool idea. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's hard to get people to do this kind of stuff now because they don't like to commit, right? But if you can get it and they're committed, you're going to get some really cool people doing that with you. So enjoy. Let us know, what you plan. I'm curious to hear. So what was the other question? Sorry, 1 second, guys. Kimberly asked about, well, you didn't really ask. You said, I like my RPE queuing, but I'm up to fine tune and get better. So I'm assuming that means you want to just talk about it. So that's fine. RPE, and I've talked about this in a couple of Hoerner happy hours in the past. It's such an interesting topic because everyone is a little bit different in how they teach it. I know that I'm not a huge fan of giving gear numbers. I'm assuming a lot of you aren't either, which is the beauty of RPE, because you're teaching people a subjective way, individual to them, that they can get to where you need them to be during class. I actually find, and I've said this in the past, that being able to communicate effectively, not just the number, but what that number means, is so important. Whether they're a new rider or they're a seasoned rider, or maybe they're someone who spins all the time but they don't come to your class and you're going to teach it differently than, say, Joe Schmo who's right after you. It's really important that you don't just give a number 1 to 10 or 1 to 7 or 6 to 20, whatever your scale is, you explain what that number means. So I would say, I always kind of associate with heart rate zones, whether that's 1 to 5, I've seen 1 to 7 heart rate zones, but the general idea, right? You're starting in a recovery zone, it's slowly building aerobic, and it's getting all the way up to that max effort. Associate your scale with the heart rate scale, and that helps teach it as well. So a lot of my riders use heart rate monitors, so I can explain, when we're at a 10, you're close to that max. And when also thankful for you guys, and thank you for being here. Can't talk today. Anyways, all right, I'm off to walk the dog. I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Bye.